Hello, and first of all, apologies for my voice. I have a bit of an issue with my throat at the moment, but welcome to Season 3, Race 1 of my F1 24-19 career mode with Rockstar Energy Racing. And we're here to kick off the new season, the Bahrain Grand Prix. And it is my teammate, Fernando Alonso, my new teammate, who is on the pole, just ahead. It was actually very close in the top five. Just look at those times there. From the top, just separating the top five. Russell, Gasly, Leclerc, Norris, and Alonso. And Gasly, really expected to see him all the way up there, but a great qualifying effort from him. And it's Russell, Verstappen, Piastri, Albon in his new ride, Hamilton, and myself. I don't know what it was. I lost a lot of time in the third sector. Just didn't work out for whatever reason. Still managed 10th place starting spot. So that's good. Bahrain's definitely a track where I can make moves on the start, so might not be fighting for the win per se, but I definitely think I can, get from 10th and challenge for a podium for sure. Alright. We actually have a lot of resource points here, so we'll see if we can spend some of those before we get to the start of the race here. Here, see where we are starting the season. So we're going to get some more upgrades here. Probably aerodynamic chassis since the powertrain durability morales are low after what I chose for the preseason stuff. So, excuse me. So I guess we'll go with diffuser. And we'll get a chassis part. And we'll go with the front nose cone, which also, along with that other aero part, have a 0% chance of failure. So two big parts, actually a major upgrade and an ultimate upgrade. So that's our first ultimate upgrade, I think, of the career mode. So, we should be well ahead of all the other teams going into Australia. But you have to get through Bahrain first. So, well, actually, before that, I'll just quickly remind everyone who the driver changes this year. So, Alonso is my teammate, of course. Albon went to Aston Martin. Ollie Behrman went to Haas. Yuki Tsunoda went to Kick Sauber. Teo Pourchaire went to Visa Cash App RB. Zhou Guanyu went to Williams. And Dennis Hauger was picked up for Kick Sauber. So, those are all the changes, mostly in the midfield, and then at the back, Alonso really only changing at the front of the grid. But, yeah, let's go right into the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Fernando Alonso yesterday puts him on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Gasly, Russell, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Hamilton, Golden Boy, Sainz, Ocon, Perez, Magnussen, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Théo Pourchaire, Joe, Sonoda, Behrman, Sargent, and Dennis Hauger. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me in the commentary box, my old friend, Anthony Davidson. Now, Ant, as much as I like testing, and I do love testing, and I've really enjoyed the build-up here and all the speculation, I really want to see some action. And finally today, we get some proper action on the track.
You're going to definitely see action, Crofty. Everyone's G'd up for this one. They've done the testing, like you say. The drivers will be revving inside, heart rates going, trying to burst out their chest at this moment. With that anticipation, who's got the speed? We're going to learn now, once and for all.
The formation lap gets underway then, and it's going to be interesting today to see how the dry conditions could affect the lifespan of the tyres. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can. And they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, and failing that, within the points.
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Look out for a bit of understeer when trailing the car ahead. They're going to be giving off dirty air, which is going to affect our tyres, so try to get past. Good job, that was the fastest lap of the race so far. Tyre condition still looking good. Okay, this is good. You're catching the car ahead. Nice move. Good job. We're approaching the pit window now, and you're going to be on hards next time. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. Okay, be aware, the grip levels are going to start falling away soon. We're going to box this lap and push hard on the in-lap. Fernando's in the pits. Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach and make sure you don't speed. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 24.2 seconds. Pitting this lap then, come into the pits at the end of this lap. Affirmative, medium tyres at the next stop. Confirmed, we'll receive you at the end of this lap. Affirmative, medium tyres at the next stop. Okay, one stop to go, just one stop left in this strategy. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Gap to your teammate behind, 4.1 seconds. Track is clear, green flag. Okay, we're approaching the pit window. You're going to be on softs. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Okay, we want you to pit this lap, so push now, push. Understood. Stopping this lap. Okay, roger that. Soft tyres at the next pit stop. Okay, we can take you this lap. Okay, roger that. Soft tyres at the next pit stop.
And it looks like the pit crew are out in the lane and ready to perform their magic on the car. They're going to be aiming to achieve the fastest pit stop time possible.
Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. Battery charge is high, let's use that overtake button a bit more. Okay, so gap to the car ahead, 1.8 seconds. Great manoeuvre, you made it look so easy. No need to worry about the tyre condition for now, everything's looking good. Right, the gap to the teammate ahead of us, 6.4 seconds. Okay, so all of our tyre pressure data is currently reading 0. Assuming they still look inflated to you, we're going to guess that it's just a bad sensor. Shouldn't be anything to worry about. Okay, keep an eye on that gap ahead, please. 2.6 seconds. Good job. Nice overtake. lap, final lap. Push, push. Fantastic drive, that's just fantastic. Amazing, you deserved that race win. Well done, mate.
Smiling faces on the pit wall then after that superb win here at Sakhir. And rightly so, a brilliant effort from the whole team.
Well, you're always unsure of the competition and what your opponents have been able to do in the off-season, Crofty, but they've come here today, they've delivered the performance that you dream about, and wow, did they make that car sing today. Really impressive stuff.
Welcome then to the podium, our top three drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait to see what's next.
And that was the Bahrain Grand Prix. I always liked driving this track, and it was a really fascinating race from start to finish. First of all, you had the strategy at the start, which had it as a one-stop stop to hard. And I thought about what I was gonna do. Um, Around lap 6 or 7, I had the thought, well, because actually, what happened? So I got up to like fifth or so. Eventually, made my way up to third. And it looked like Alonso, my teammate, was going to drive away with it with Norris, but Norris passed Alonso and I was able to stay within DRS range of them to catch them and eventually take the lead. Um, and around lap 6 or 7, I thought about maybe stretching the softs because the softs weren't wearing too much. Um, so I thought, well, maybe I try the overcut, go a little longer on the soft tires, go on the mediums, and race in the mediums. Well, the pit sequence kicked off a little earlier than I expected. Um, and so I thought, oh, well, maybe I could bank on some of the medium tire starters, which were there were, I think, like 6 drivers starting on the mediums. So I thought, oh, maybe they're close enough that they could hold up the guys that pitted, and that would give me some leeway to make my stop. Well, it didn't really work out that way, so I ended up coming in a lap earlier than I was intending and putting on the mediums. I thought, okay, I could probably stretch these mediums to the end. But then I saw the pit predictor have it coming in at lap 20, 21, 22. So I got nervous. I was like, okay, I'm not really sure anymore if these tires are going to make it to the end. So I decided that I was going to go with my original plan, which was to do a two-stop, soft, medium, soft. And what really helped me was the fact that there was a really titanic battle for second place between Leclerc, Norris, and my teammate Fernando Alonso. Like, they were just going at it, and them going at it, what that really did was that allowed me to extend the gap. Um, Getting within, you know, or extending the lead to about 8 or 9 seconds, which obviously took less pressure off of me for when I did my pit stop. And these guys are having a great battle for second place throughout the entire race, but that's ultimately led to me getting the win was the fact that they could not, excuse me, Leclerc and Norris and Alonso to an extent, they could not get away from each other. So they were constantly battling and battling and battling. And that just allowed me to build the gap, like I said, and get enough space to where I could make my pit stop, not be too far behind them, because obviously I knew, when I pitted, the soft tire is going to have a huge difference over their worn hard tires. So I came out probably like 12 seconds or so behind the leaders with like 9 or so laps to go, and when you look at their worn hards versus my fresh softs, it's 2 compounds softer. It was really a no contest at that point. I think this is where one of the big moments of the race right here is they get side by side through that kink there. And that's going to allow Alonso to sneak up on him and go for a 3-wide pass. here's that whole sequence again. That was just incredible racing for second place. Alonso taking a 3 wide. That's crazy. And then it just keeps going. They just kept going. They couldn't get away from each other. And if, you know, the car in third place is close enough to get the DRS on the front straight, and especially if they got side by side through that kink there, going on to this second DRS straight, that just led to more sort of insanity. Just try to, you know, with cars making moves everywhere. And look at that right there. You have 4 cars under a blanket battling for second place, and that's just crazy. And you should know that Gasly, he was the Alpines actually went for the 2-stop strategy. Although it was kind of weird because they went soft, soft, hard. I probably would have gone, if I was doing 2 softs to start, I would have gone soft, soft, medium. But in the end, it did net Gasly 2 points. He did, you know, he wasn't able to capitalize on his qualifying effort, but I guess points are still points for Alpine. And how about Carlos Sainz started 11th, finished 6th, and Lance Stroll started 15th, finished 8th. Had to give the tip of the hat to those guys. Stroll in particular, he's that was a great run for him. Of course, the driver standings mirror the results of the main race, so no real differences there. Really bad race for Mercedes and Red Bull. Hamilton only scored a point. Sergio Perez didn't point at all. And then both Verstappen and Russell DNF'd out of the race. So the fact that you had the constructors who were 4th and 5th down in 6th and 7th, only 1 point between them, it's not great. Not great for those guys. Well, I'm sure it's great for some of you out there who don't like Red Bull. But yeah, that was the Bahrain Grand Prix, and again, that the battling for the lead was what really helped the strategy, because I went from, it allowed me to get an 9-second lead. I came out about 12, 13 seconds behind them, and then because of the tire difference, I won the race by like 5 seconds. Because it wasn't just, you know, before I pitted, they were still battling when I got out of the pits, and by then Oscar Piastri had caught up, and then it was more of a battle between two different one-on-one battles with Leclerc and Norris, and then Piastri and Alonso going at it. And yeah, that's basically how it went down. Bahrain, I don't know, Bahrain on the F1 games for me has been a lot, especially when the car is upgraded in the later seasons. It's a lot of fun to drive. And when it's a track that I know I'm good at, it's nice to know that I can attack if I put fresh tires on. So that 2-stop strategy sort of works for me in that regard, particularly at Bahrain. So there we go. So we got a lot of time between the next race. We got a lot of activities to get taken care of here. Alright, I don't think I did a rivalry with Lewis yet, so I guess I'll go with Lewis.
You handled that well. Thank you.
Should be an easy one, especially since Mercedes are not great start the year. I mean, they are fifth in the running order, so they're in theory a point scoring team, but Aston Martin's below both Red Bull and Mercedes, and yet they score points, and Red Bull and Mercedes did not have a good race weekend, so.
Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
So all those new parts came in without issue, so that's good news. Yeah, see if I can get anything on the durability side. So I think I'm gonna get control electronics reliability testing here. Just have enough. Alright. And that pretty much wraps up the Bahrain Grand Prix. What an opening round, and I will see you next time when we go to Melbourne, Albert Park, for the Australian Grand Prix.